Hello, welcome to this video. In this video, I'm going to be discussing equalizers, what they are, the common controls of an equalizer, and then I'm going to show some examples of how I would use them within a project. So first of all, what is an EQ? An EQ monitors the frequency content of an audio signal and allows the user to adjust the content by increasing specific areas of the content or reducing specific areas of the content. An EQ will not allow you to add content or add frequencies that aren't there. It can only work on existing frequencies. That's very, very important. So how an EQ works, it will use what's called bands to do these adjustments. All these bands are basically just filters. So an EQ is just a series of filters in one unit. So why do we need EQ rather than just using filters? Because if you start making several adjustments using EQ, it's much better to have all these little adjustment filters in one unit rather than have 6, 7 filters on each individual audio track that you're adjusting. So that basically is what an EQ is. It monitors the frequency spectrum of a signal and allows the user to make adjustments. So now onto the controls. If you get out one of these bands, we have several different ways we can get this band to adjust the signal. We have a bell filter. All a bell filter will do will allow you to pick a specific area of the frequency and reduce or increase the content of that frequency. We then have a low shelf, which will start from the low end of the frequency up to wherever the user decides is appropriate, and will reduce the frequency content from there. You then have a low cut, which will cut all the frequencies starting from the low end up to the high end as it moves along. High shelf, it will start shelving, so reducing or increasing the high end of the frequency spectrum to wherever the user places it. High cut cuts the frequency content from high to low. A notch will remove a very specific part of the frequency spectrum from the audio signal. A bandpass will remove the low end of the frequency spectrum and the high end of the frequency spectrum, leaving a selected area of the audio. Tilt shelf. How a tilt shelf works is whatever adjustment is made to the one end of the frequency spectrum, so the lower frequency spectrum, the opposite will be applied to the higher end of the frequency spectrum. And that's basically it. So what else have we got? If we just go back to a low cut, we then have the slope. The slope is how gradually the frequency is removed. So we set our point, so for the sake of argument, let's just say 95 or 100, there you go. Now with the 96 dB, it slopes straight off, basically near enough. Starts at, if we increase this to 72, it slopes off a little bit slower. 24, slopes off a bit slower, all the way to 6, which is a big slope. So your filter tells it when to cut off. Your slope is how gradually or how abrupt the frequency is cut. Then, as I've already said, we've got a frequency knob or option, which will allow us to choose what frequency we want the filtering to start, the EQ to start occurring. Just change that to a bell filter. Now, another option you have with all of them apart from low cut and high cut is, again, how much do you want to cut or how much do you want to increase your selection by. And then our last one, Q, quadrant. What this does is reduce or increases the amount of the audio range affected. So they are pretty much all the basic controls that all EQs will have. Yeah. So now, how would we use these? So I've got a little loop I've created going here. And on the majority of these tracks, the kick, the top group, the bass, the guitar and the piano, I've added an EQ to show you some examples. So if we just play the kick by itself for now. Now, on that kick, as you can hear, this is, if you've got good headphones on or you listen to good monitors, you can hear there's a bit of a low frequency we don't like. So if we pick a low cut and select a deep slope, because we want to cut off pretty much immediately, and use a listen function on this EQ to see what we want to cut. So about there. Off, on. Off, on. So you can see by using a low cut, what we've done is took away the booming and undesirable sub-frequencies from that kick, yeah? Awesome. So the next one we have one on is the top loop. Now on the top loop, I've added some reverb, just add a bit of ambience to it. But what the reverb will also be doing is building up some low-end content just from the reverb itself. So I've added an EQ here, and on this EQ, I'm going to again do a low cut, but with a not as harsh roll off. And I'll remove it about there. So as I hope you can hear, it's just taking off some of them frequencies you don't want in that kind of area. Now on the piano, this is the piano without any EQing on. So if we just remove all them. Now what I've done here is some surgical EQ. I've used bell filters, and if we take this one for example and just increase the gain, you can hear how it's a very resonating tone that we wouldn't want in the mix. So all I've done there is create the bell filter, set the quadrant really, really tight, put it to the top and scanned with the frequency knob. So there's a slight one there, and then use the gain to take out as much as required. Without them filters on, with them filters on. Yeah, so just clean up the sounds that really we don't want in there. So that's that's how I would use them in a project. Use them to get rid of any low end that you don't want on your signal that's going to cause you problems at the mix down and mastering stage. If you've added effects, again, tidy up the frequency content of them groups. There's one on the guitar as well, sorry. So I'll just play that guitar this as well, any EQing on. With EQing. So what I've done there, again, I've took away any of the low end that might interfere with the kick and bass when playing. I've used surgical EQ to remove a resonant frequency that would have been not too good in the mix. There, hopefully you could hear that coming through there. Gain to reduce it. We have a cleaner signal. And then what else I've done on this one, I've used a high shelf and just basically rounded off the high frequencies to create a bit more of a ambient tone rather than being direct and in your face. It's quite chilled and goes with the rest of the song. And that's it. On the piano, what I used was some surgical EQ to get rid of some resonant tones from the piano. So what I'll do, I'll turn all the EQing off and play it without any EQing at all. And I'll now re-add the EQ I applied, and hopefully you should be able to tell the difference. So I got used EQ just to get better sounds, better mix, and just to make everything gel together a bit better. So just to reiterate the controls, the first one is the band selection. Do you want a bell filter for some surgical EQ with a tight quadrant? Get rid of resident tones. You can have a low shelf, which will just decrease or increase from the low frequencies to wherever you set the band. Low cut, take away any undesirable frequencies from your signal. High shelf, boost or reduce any high portions of your signal that you want. High cut, just remove any unwanted high end. This is particularly good if you've got a lead line and it's quite high frequency lead. People always tend to cut the bottom frequencies the most. Always remember, sometimes it sounds a bit tinny or just a bit too in the top ends. Remember just to put a very slight cut to clean it up a bit, make it sound a bit nicer really. A notch, again, will just take away a very specific part of the frequency, depending on your quadrant setting. Again, good for surgical EQing, which is why I've used a bell one there. Bandpass. Now, a bandpass, as I say, will allow you to select a certain portion of the signal to play while cutting everything else out. Tilt shelf will allow you to put opposite adjustments for the low and high end frequency. You then have your dB octave roll off, which, as I say, will allow the attunement of the frequencies to occur at a either more steep speed or roll off a bit more slowly. Just so you might want a bit slower, just so it's not as harsh, and you've still got some of the other frequencies left. Frequency, pretty obvious. We'll select the frequency of your band. Gain, how much do you want to take away or how much do you want to add. And your Q, your quadrant, do you want to make it a more narrow cut or boost, or do you want to make it a large one? And that is pretty much it for this one. Again, thank you for anyone who's watched. If you've got any comments or any requests, again, leave them at the bottom of the video. And if I think it's something I can do, quite happy to try and get them done for you. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your evening or day, wherever you are.